You're listening to The Lyndia Grant Show. Think on these things with Lyndia Grant.
Well, good evening, Radio 1 listeners. Thank you for tuning in to The Lyndia Grant Show. We are now approaching the end of July. Actually, this show is going to come on Friday, August the 1st. So it's really our last week, but it's going to air on August the 1st. So time is flying pretty fast this year. Today, Attorney Dana Stebbins is going to be here with us, but she gave me a wonderful suggestion about a couple of months ago. She said, both Dr. Julianne and I talk politics. Why don't we do a show together? So today is that day. We are going to be talking to Dr. Julianne Malvo, who's also an economist, and to Attorney Dana Stebbins. So, but we're going to talk to both of them. I'm going to say hi first. How are you, Dr. Julianne?
I am great and highly favored, Lyndia. And how are you? And of course, Dana.
Yeah.
I'm very well, thank you.
Good.
Very well.
Good. Let's go to Dr. Julianne first, you all. Thank you to the listeners out there in Spirit 1340, WYCB, and Radio Land. And because we share our show all over the country, it goes everywhere. So, Dr. Julianne, talk to us a little bit about the economy. Then we're going to go into our politics.
Okay, well, we know that the economy, we've been getting some bad news about the labor market. And that's, of course, none of us are surprised. We know that 300,000 Black women lost their jobs, largely because of the anti-DEI efforts. But also, basically, economists have been forecasting pretty much a level job creation, but there were 300,000 fewer jobs available last month, that would be June, than there were in May. In other words, we can see the subtle contracting of the economy is squeezing in, and much of that has to do, of course, with the tariffs. And it's not just the tariffs themselves. We just cut a deal, the president just cut a deal with the European Union for a 15% tariff. And I guess really he's going to threatening everybody and he's going to settle it down to 15%. But that's very unsettling to business people. They need to know how they can plan for the next year. We even there's a phenomenon now called Christmas in July, where people are doing their Christmas shopping now because they think they'll get better prices than they will in December. Of course, China has not moved at all regarding their mess. And so you look at China, we're looking at other countries, we're basically looking at a situation. But the immediate effect is that we're seeing labor market instability. The labor market is weaker than it was a month ago. And basically, it's almost at the level of right before COVID. Then we saw a big jump down. We moved back up. We're trending down again. And a lot of it just has to do with the uncertainty around this tariff situation. So we really have to be, we just need to be mindful. And my advice to people always is to keep your money. Mm-hmm. Keep as much of your money as you can. Do not be out here doing profligate spending because you don't know what's going to happen next month. And the other thing I would quickly say about the economy is that while this administration has talked about fraud, waste, and abuse, they create fraud, waste, and abuse. They burned up food that could have gone to developing countries, could have gone to Gaza. Over $750,000 worth of food, cost another $130,000 to destroy the food. And this is the administration that does not like fraud, waste, and abuse. Additionally, as an example, they destroyed $9 million worth of contraceptives, be they birth control pills, IUDs. They destroyed them because this administration doesn't believe in birth control. But that was $9.3 million, and it cost another about $150,000, $200,000 to actually incinerate these birth control devices, some of which were good until 2027. And then some of this grant cutting that they've done does impact the level of job instability. One of the cases that I just glommed on, it's been in the news a little bit, this guy named Bruce Manor, young guy from UC, University of California at San Diego. He's hard of hearing, and he's doing research on how to restore deafness. he had a 5-year grant. They cut it off after 2 years. He's in court about it now. But think about the taxpayer money. Think about the people who lost their jobs. He's had to lay off half of his lab. This is going on and on and on. So this administration, fraud, waste, and abuse, is full of fraud, waste, and abuse. So I'll stop there because I'm looking forward to my conversation with Dana. But
I know you're an economist, and that thing was interesting to you. So, but let's go to now talk to attorney Dana Stebbins, and she's going to answer get started with her answer on the first question. We're going to be talking about considering, and it's mostly this topic is going to be about the upcoming elections and what needs to happen. I didn't look at my note, but I'm explaining it in my own way. The Democratic elections that are going to be coming up in the next 2 and 4 years. Considering everything that this president and his MAGA surrogates in the House and Senate have done in less than a year to weaken Americans' economy, is there a way, Dana, to counter some of this before his term ends? And then the same question to Dr. Julianne.
Well, I'm some of the stuff that Dr. J just talked about, I hadn't paid close attention to, but it makes even more the point that I'm trying to make, and that is that without a way to stop him, he's going to keep going. He has an agenda. He's already said he believes he has 2 years to get his full agenda in place. That's the anti-DEI, that's the anti-federal workers, that's the anti-world where America stands alone. It's his whole agenda. He thinks he has 2 years. Let's say that he has those 2 years only. We need to begin preparing for the midterm elections. Midterm elections are those elections that occur in between elections. It's midway through a president's term. So halfway through a president's term, there's a midterm election where we elect all 435 members of the House of Representatives and 1/3 of the Senate. Currently, he has control of both houses. Not he does, but actually he does. The Republicans have control of both houses. If we're going to do anything to fix this, we're going to have to turn out in mass in the midterm elections, because we're also voting for governors, local officials, and policy initiatives. We're going to be voting against or for mass deportation. We're going to be voting against or for illegal immigrants not having the right to work in the United States. We're going to be voting for or against his ability to impose tariffs willy-nilly on whatever country he decides to impose it on, which rises inflation, cost of living, and everything else for us. So the midterms give us an opportunity, Lyndia, to think about how we can impact it. It is crucial, especially this year, because he only controls those two houses by about 2 or 3 seats. If we can flip 2 or 3 seats, we can take back, meaning the Democrats and sane people, can take back the control of the government.
Dr. J, go ahead.
There are many opportunities for Democrats to pick up seats, but it will be very challenging. As Dana said, all 435 House seats are in play. Here's a challenge. The state of Texas has now said usually you do redistricting maps every 10 years by law. Now they want to do them now. If they do them now, they can try to snatch some seats by creating irregularly shaped districts that they can snap. They can put more voters in some Republican districts or some Democratic districts. They can create chaos, and they basically said they will. So we got that in Texas. 2 governors of largely heavily Democratic states, California and New York, said, well, tit for tat. If y'all want to do that for us, we'll do it for you. But I mean, the question becomes, do we want to set up a situation where, anytime anybody wants to redistrict, they can? That's a sign for electoral chaos. Usually this only happens, like I said, every 10 years. after,
Yes.
it usually happens after the census. So, you know, as our country is fluid, people move, and, you know, some states become less or more popular depending on what's going on. That's why it's every 10 years. Well, if they decide they're just going to do it whenever, and then Democrats respond, well, we'll do it whenever also, we will literally have electoral instability. And that's not a good thing. I don't think they care. I mean, this administration essentially doesn't seem to care about anything. They just do, again, they do whatever, whenever, wherever, and however.
Well, they're doing this solely to keep control of the Congress. There are several lawsuits filed in Texas to prevent the governor from redistricting. He wants 5 new seats. So he's creating these districts solely to get 5 Republicans elected. That is not a reason for redistricting. As you said before, it happens after the census. It's supposed to be based on population. It's not supposed to be based on political affiliation. I don't know whether those lawsuits will prevail because we have a set of courts that have been appointed by this president, the judges sit, and the Supreme Court. So that may not work, but it is one of the only shots we have because there's nothing else we can do during the midterms to change this. It is going to be difficult. I agree. It is going to be difficult.
Difficult, but possible. But possible because all of these things, it really, number one, it depends on turnout. But we don't know what other tricks they have up their bag of tricks, what up their sleeve. We don't know what other tricks they have. We already have experienced voter suppression. We've seen in some cases voting polls being closed. So people in some rural areas have to travel as many as 25 miles to get to vote. Well, if you don't have transportation, et cetera, now Barbara Arnwine and her team, Equal Justice Initiative, and many other organizations are really stepping in and saying, if they can get in early and people say, I need a ride to the polls, they'll give them a ride. But there's so many tricks they can play, including the whole thing about voter ID. The other thing that's likely to happen, North Carolina looks exciting. Roy Cooper, who was formerly the governor, he is a moderate Democrat. He's very popular in the state. I always tell people I served time in North Carolina when I was president of Bennett College. But Roy's a good guy. Now, the question is whether or not there's going to be turnout. One of the things we know, there are 10 HBCUs in North Carolina. Last time around, they tried to change the rules so students couldn't vote, couldn't use their student ID to register to vote. They're likely to try that again. Just to shout out my former institution, Bennett bells are voting bells. That's what we say. We turn out. I think we got 28. We had about a 85, 90% voter turnout on our campus compared to across the street. A&T had a much lower voter turnout. They came out, but they didn't come out at 85, 90%. They came out more like 60%.
That's because they had you, Dr. J. They had you. You wasn't letting it go.
I was not. We at every assembly we had voter registration.
I know you did.
And of course, Congresswoman Alma Adams, who was on my faculty before she joined Congress, she was the one who coined the saying, "Bennett bells are voting bells." Mm-hmm. But you know, we're going to have to look state by state to see what kind of tricks they try. And you know, they will try tricks, whether it's student registration, changing voting places. They changed something in 2012 in North Carolina where they had the bailiff from court at the voting place. So a lot of brothers I know didn't vote because they said they were behind on their child support. And they were not going where they had the sheriffs and the bailiffs and all those people there. So they will try tricks, but we have to be time enough for them because Dana is right. This is the only time that we're going to be able to stop this man in his tracks.
Let's go to a commercial break, you all. We've come about halfway of our show. We're going to go to a commercial break and we're going to come back and keep talking some more to encourage our listeners to be ready, willing, and able to do what is needed during this midterm that's coming up. Back in a moment.
If it wasn't for my care coach at AmeriHealth, I probably wouldn't be so healthy right now. As a man, you know we don't get checkups or see a doctor regularly anyways. It's probably just a man thing because none of my partners go either. We know we should, but we just don't, and hope it works out.
So what changed for you?
AmeriHealth assigned me a care coach, somebody that gives one-on-one help answer questions, explain things, and help set my appointments. She also helped me understand what having high blood pressure really means and ways to manage it so it doesn't kill me. It ain't nothing to play with. If you're a member of AmeriHealth, ask for a care coach. I'm glad I got mine.
At AmeriHealth, if you need a care coach, you can have one. Just call us at 1-877-759-6224 to get connected. 1-877-759-6224. This program is funded in part by the government of the District of Columbia Department of Healthcare Finance. Mayor Muriel Bowser.
Washington and former religion columnist Lyndia Grant.
Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on a segregated Montgomery bus. In lectures on brotherhood, Ms. Parks often said, "People always say that I didn't give up my seat because I was tired." But that wasn't true. I was not tired physically. I was not old. I was 42. No, the only tired I was tired of giving in. Driven out of Montgomery by harassment and death threats, Detroit, Michigan became her new home. Rosa Parks will always be remembered as the mother of the civil rights movement. Raised in the AME church, she once said, "I remember finding such comfort and peace while reading the Bible."
Read more in the religion column of the Washington Informer, an award-winning African-American newspaper. We don't report crime or gossip, just positive news. Pick up the Washington Informer or visit us online at washingtoninformer.com. Call 202-561-4100 for more information.
This is Frank Smith with the African American Civil War Museum in Washington, D.C., located at 1925 Vermont Avenue Northwest on the Green Line. Did you know that a recent study found that children who visit museums do better in school and in life than children who do not? So parents, teachers, and preachers, let's get moving. I promise you, if you bring your children to the African American Civil War Museum, they will be inspired by the images that they see. They will be impressed by our living history reenactors who are always available, and they will be involved in our scavenger hunt that takes them throughout our exhibit. That's the African American Civil War Museum, 1925 Vermont Avenue. Our hours are 10 to 6:30 on weekdays, 12 to 4 on Saturdays and Sundays. See it, be inspired.
And we are back. You're listening to the Lyndia Grant Show. Today we're talking to our own economist and political commentator, Dr. Julianne Malvo, and we're also talking to attorney Dana Stebbins, who has her own law firm in Washington, D.C., and she's a friend from 40-some years ago. I met her way back in the day when she was the chair for the D.C. Chamber of Commerce Women in Business. So I just want to go back to the conversation we're having today about midterm elections and what we can do. And the next question I want to ask is, well, I think we kind of talked about it a little bit, but the key states to try to increase Democratic representation during the midterms. And then we want to tell the listeners and others things they can do to restore democracy and save our cultural institutions, especially places like the African American Museum of History and Culture and the Kennedy Center, and even the African American Civil War Memorial. I know because I can't tell Councilman Frank Smith's business. He didn't tell me to, but he's having some issues out of Republicans as well. Talk to us. Dana, you go next.
Okay. I want to acknowledge that though it's difficult, I want to think positively, and I want to urge our listeners to think positively. There are 6 Senate seats that are likely to flip if everybody turns out. The Senate seats in North Carolina, Georgia, Maine, New Hampshire, and Michigan. Latest polls show that those are very close or even, and that the current scandals that the administration is going through with all of the Epstein files problems that are even giving MAGA Republicans pause, the corruption where the president has a Bitcoin company that has now sold more Bitcoin to Americans and other countries than anybody else. All of those kind of things are mounting up and causing even Republican voters to question. And so we're focused meaning the Democratic operation is focused on those states that are most likely to flip. We're also focused on young voters, young voters and voters who have not voted before. The Republicans outworked us last time, and they got to a lot of young black men, they got to a lot of young Hispanic men, and somehow convinced them that it was in their best interest to vote Republican. We're going after that same group and more to try to convince them that what you see is the result of your vote. That what's happening in this country is because you allowed them to convince you that all they wanted to do was get rid of criminals, save your daughters and your wives from rape and scandal, save the country, reduce egg prices, reduce gas prices. None of that has happened. None. And instead we have a scandal-ridden administration. And so we're going after those places where we believe we can turn voters around.
Dr. J?
I agree. I would like to, I'm positive, but I'm a pragmatist. So I'm thinking positive, I'm working positively, I'm encouraging people to vote, looking at key races where I might be able to contribute. Dana didn't mention, she mentioned Georgia. We have John Ossoff, young Jewish fellow who's a senator from Georgia. He was elected at the same time as Raphael Warnock. He's in trouble.
Yeah.
That's a race that we really need to look at and put some energy into it. I hope that Senator Warnock, the two of them were both reelected, and now Warnock, I think, is in until 2028, whereas Ossoff will go out, he's back up for reelection. So I'm hoping that Warnock will work with him and help him get the votes out. Ossoff is good, quite from my perspective. He usually votes the right way, but he doesn't work that hard for the black vote, and he's going to have to. Georgia is one of those states where the black vote is very, very determinant. I mean, I think we're looking at, the possibility. Colin Allred is running in Texas. Honestly, I don't think he has much of a chance, but if he raises more money and people turn out, he might. The African-American veteran, very very good guy, right on all the positions, but he just hasn't gotten as much notice as he might. It's still a year and a half in play. But people need to pay attention to these races, and a year and a half is not a long time. It's a very short amount of time. And then we need to look at each and every House race. And again, it's 435 of them. All we need is maybe 3 votes. If everything holds, all we need to do is flip 3, and I'd be more comfortable if we could flip 5. The same is true in the Senate. Now in the Senate, Susan Collins, who has been a somewhat reliable swing vote out of Maine, she is getting some pushback from younger voters in her area. Because she talks a good bipartisan game, but when the pedal comes to the metal, she's down. She's just plain old Republican. So she's getting some pushback. But we need to be able to not only encourage people to get out to vote, but it's not too late to encourage some people. There's still time in some places to run. It's still time for people to run. And so to encourage people to run. I'm looking at Reverend William Barber, who talks a lot about, the working poor. There's nothing for the working poor in this administration. Nothing. But here's how slick they are. This is how slick they are. A number of the changes that they want to make to hurt the poor won't happen until after the midterm election. So if you're thinking, I have the same amount of money that I had last year, yeah, but you're not gonna have it next year. So they're basically doing a lot of dirt, but they're not letting it be effective right away. And that is going to fool voters if they don't pay attention.
Tell us.
The only caution I would throw out is, and I agree with everything you said, is that somehow the voting apparatus has to work in our favor this time. They have found a way, and we haven't been able to prove it yet, but we have enough statistics and data to now understand they have found a way to influence the way votes are registered. And we have got to find a way around that. And I'm not sure we can by midterms, but that is a caution that I throw out there. Don't believe that everything you see is true as those ballots come in. make sure your ballot is registered the way you said it was registered. Look at how it goes in the machine. I voted Democrat. I voted for so-and-so. When it comes out, does it say that or does it say something else? Make sure that the voting apparatus, if you can become a poll watcher, if you can work as an election judge, if you can volunteer your time at a poll, any place, to make sure that we are being counted properly when we vote.
That's absolutely right. Here in DC, when you leave out, they give you can look at your ballot. Make sure you look at your ballot. And I don't necessarily think there are that many shenanigans in DC, but there's shenanigans everywhere. And we're seeing lots of examples of it. I mean, many people I know who are election type workers are saying that they don't think that the numbers were right from the 2024 election. They think that there was some chicanery going on some kind of way. Nobody knows what kind of way. But there have been indications that there's some chicanery going on. So, we have to basically turn out. We also have to participate. We have to fully participate. And that just doesn't mean voting. Voting is not the most you can do. Literally, it's the least you can do. You need to do so many more things.
I just want to say, ladies, I can't get into the details, but I'm agreeing with both of you, especially when I heard something on the Joy Reid show. She couldn't do it on the news, but she had some people that are computer experts that have been proving that some shenanigans have gone on all over the country. More about that is coming out eventually, but they're going to do it in such a way that people will know something did happen. So talk to us a little bit more now about these museums and things and changing the Kennedy Center. And is there anything we can do to help stop some of these shenanigans that are going on with our museums?
There is I'll go first. There is a petition now that is going around the country being circulated by a number of Black lawyers. We're up to about 145 that include civil rights lawyers and other lawyers. We are petitioning so that we can show the depth of support the African American Museum has in this country. It is the largest grossing, attendance-wise, museum in the Smithsonian, in all the museums. And it is currently under threat because the trustees are now being changed. The chair of the trustees for the Smithsonian has always been the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. We now know that that might be a problem. But there's a lot going on behind the scenes to try to convince some donors to take back their exhibits, to try to hamper attendance by changing the hours. So we have a petition. If you see it coming your way, sign it, give it to your neighbors. It expresses support for the African American Museum. That's one of them. The Kennedy Center, I'll just say that I am aghast, appalled, and disgusted to think that the United States House of Representatives would pass a bill to rename the Kennedy Center to the Trump Center and rename the Opera House to the Melania Trump Opera House. That I'm not sure what we can do anything about unless we just want to express outrage, but they've already voted that bill out.
Dr. J?
Well, he made himself the he made himself the chair of the board of the Kennedy Center. That right in of itself was a challenge. Lonnie Bunch's term as the head of the National African American Museum is going to be up next year. And of course, the board has changed because of this administration. So I'm fearful about what may happen because, everybody Brown ain't down. What I mean by that, the new president of Florida A&M University, is a Black woman who is not only a Republican, but she is a rabid conservative Republican. She's already gone into FAMU and started cutting things, putting faculty on notice and changing the curriculum. And I imagine that they'll try to do the same thing with the museum. The petition is great. People should sign it, but people should also donate to the museum. Yes. You should all be members of that museum, even if you have a $25 membership. It does make a difference. And so Lonnie is a dear friend, and I'm very concerned. He hasn't backed down on anything. He has not. And there's a new exhibit coming to the NAMAC on museums at HBCUs that I'm really excited about. So they're moving ahead, but you know that they can be stopped at any moment. So what people need to understand is the support that our museums have, including the Civil War Museum, all of our museums, all over the country. We're seeing, again, hours being changed. When states are funding, those states are sometimes cutting funding. The anti-DEI mandate has trickled outward in ways that are inane. There's a young white guy who does work on biological diversity. Biological diversity, what does that mean? Different kinds of plants. Because these people are so stupid that they put the word diversity in an AI, and his research came up, and they cut his research. He's not talking about race. He's not talking about gender. He's talking about having different kind of plants in the same place. So we're seeing just the inanity because these people are just, they're diabolical, but they're not bright. And in their diabolical natures, they basically are intending to crash and burn. This midterm election is literally the only opportunity we have to stop some of this nonsense.
Yep,
and
say it again.
And we've got to take advantage of it. There's nothing else. They have all
say
three.
It again.
They have
say
all
it
three
again.
houses. They have the House, the Senate, and the Supreme Court.
All right,
and they have the Supreme Court. And Roberts.
We only
Yes,
have one minute. Let Dana say her closing, and then we're gonna close.
Well, I'm just gonna say amen to everything Dr. J said. I'm going to urge your listeners and everybody they know to get involved, contribute, donate, sign the petition, read everything. When you go in to vote, know what you're voting for. Make sure your vote counted. Volunteer, spend time with people, take elderly people to the polls, urge your young kids to go to the polls. This election matters a lot.
Absolutely.
Yes, it does. All right. Well, thank
Absolutely.
you, ladies.
This is the only tool we have left. It's the only tool we have left, so we've got to use it.
All right. Well, thank you, ladies. We appreciate you. That does it for our show this week. I hope the listeners have enjoyed it. Good day.
Thank you for listening to The Lyndia Grant Show. Think on these things with your host, Lyndia Grant.